Hello, everybody, and it is Espira here with some more BSS content. We're joined by Alex, the greatest, the Chilean Grand Open champion here, giving us his deck profile. How are you feeling about your win, Alex?
Great. I mean, it feels awesome. I'll preface this whole profile with I have not slept. We just got off a 13-hour flight, so if I'm a little off on my explanation, I apologize if I get any costs wrong or anything. It's just because I haven't slept. So.
All right. Well, Terrasaur's once again best deck in the format.
Of course, man. I've been saying play Terrasaur since before day one.
All right. Then give us the breakdown.
All right. So. Let's start. We got our Overwrapodons. I mean, pretty obvious. He's a 1-drop. He's a Terrasaur. He's well statted. I mean, it doesn't get much better than this. This is pretty stock in every single list you'll see out there. Not much to say about that. Rain Needle, or as I like to call him, Dick Needle. This is just another 1-drop. He's big. He's not a Terrasaur, but again, sometimes you just need to be aggressive in the early game. He's great because he's big. And another really big thing that he does is a lot of times, more often than not, honestly, he ends up getting used to ramp into Gigano Rex. So because he costs 1, if I have something on board, I get to play him for free. And then a lot of times what I'll end up doing is just sacking him to play Gigano Rex sooner. So more often than not, this guy probably ramps into Rex more than he actually serves as a creature that attacks. And I'm okay with that. I'm 100% that's acceptable. 2 Dragon Trooper, another free guy. He can serve a similar purpose where he ramps into Rex. He gets a little bit bigger than Rain Needle on the attack. This is probably the worst creature in the deck. It's just there because I needed something to kind of fill out the slots. Like, you need guys, and there's no other Terrasaurs I really want to play. He's a 2-drop too, so I need some lower end curve. Like, I can't just load up on all the 3s. But he's still acceptable. He gets as big as 5. He gets to 6 if you have a Scorched or a Volcanic with a counter on it. So he's still perfectly acceptable. He can trade over some of the little guys. So Flamefish, or as my dad likes to call him, Fish Flame. He watched my last deck profile and kept thinking this guy was called Fish Flame, but I love a good redemption arc, and if you watch my last deck profile on Eggman's channel, you'll know I said that Flamefish didn't do shit well. Flamefish had his redemption arc at Chile. He was fucking awesome. This guy's great. He's great versus aggressive decks. He's great versus yellow to kind of stop those blessed guys. You get to leave him up while the other guys attack. This guy's great. I even sided an extra of him, which I'll show you guys when I show the sideboard, but this guy was awesome. Have no complaints about him. I might even think about going up to like a 3rd one for a Dragon Trooper because he is just kind of like, the defensive capabilities are really just like, you need defense. Like, it's really important to this deck as much as you need offense as well. So I mean, Flamefish performed well for me. No complaints this time. Bearded Eagle, this is probably the premier creature in the deck outside of Rex. I mean, this guy is so overtuned. I can't ever see them printing a vanilla that's ever as good as this again. 3 for 1 with 3 reduction, 2 for 5, 4 for 7. I mean, this guy has got to be way above the cost curve. If you plotted all the creatures on some sort of cost curve, this guy would be way the hell above. An absolute all-star, has to be a 4 of include in any Terrasaur deck, no questions asked. This guy's awesome. Dino Man. So, in Vegas, we played 3 of him. And for Dilophosa, we swapped these out now because aggressive decks are getting more popular. This is much better in the Terrasaur matchup. It's much better versus yellow. Just having a 6k guy up to block is huge. When you go second, this is one of your best options in the mirror because a lot of times with your opponent going first, they have the tempo, they have the aggression, especially if they start with something like Scorched Battlefield. You don't want to be taking a ton of hits and letting them draw cards. So you can start Dino Man, leave him up. Sometimes you can start Dino Man and one of your 1-drops, and you get to hit with the 1-drop and leave Dino Man up to block, so you're still chipping damage, but you're also getting blocks in. 3 Dilophosa. Like I said, this was 4 previously. Now it's 3. Me and Dilophosa have an interesting relationship because every time I think, like, he's just on and off with me all the time. Sometimes he just completely sucks and I hate him, and other times he's just a star. In this tournament, he was great for me. I mean, you can't play anything else, so it's not like you have a choice. It's like being in an abusive relationship. You just keep going back. There's nowhere else to go. So that's kind of where me and Dilophosa are at. Like, when he's great, and when he's not, he sucks. I mean, he was great for me this week, and he's great versus white. Sometimes, even in the mirror, he has this little niche where he comes up where they have Gigano Rex, and you need a guy that can't be confronted. You need to run guys out that can't be killed, but you don't want to attack. And he actually does that, so that's kind of cool. I had that actually come up in a game that won me the game where he tried to confront it to untap his Sortosaurus, and he couldn't. So, I mean, he's the boy.
That's the boy.
Jurassic King Rex. I mean, God, he is just... This guy is such a house. He does everything. No deck can deal with him except for purple. Purple is the only deck that really has any sort of way to deal with him. This guy is crazy. He's easily the reason this deck even works as well as it does. I mean, especially when you summon this on turn 2. I'll tell you, in one of my top cut matches, in my top 8 match I put against White Control, game 2, I sacked 3 of my creatures to summon him on turn 2. And the guy, you should have seen it, the guy was like, whoa, I'd never seen anybody do that before. And I can't stress enough, especially if you're playing against decks like White Control, it is completely acceptable to sack your whole board just to get this guy down, because once you get him down, most white decks just have no way to deal with him. So he just comes in, he does his job, he gets them trapped in the funnel like I mentioned in my last video, where all they can do is play 1 creature a turn and Rex eats it, and then you build a board around him and just swing into them. So, I mean, this guy's insane. I can't say much more about him, so on to the next. Starblessed Straw. So this is probably the one card, if you ask me, I think I said this in my last video, if I would ban one card right now in Battle Spirits, it's Starblessed Straw, because it makes it so that when summons just aren't playable. This card is insane, especially against when summon decks, because all you have to do is resolve it one time and draw all 4, and you pretty much have won the game, especially versus purple. Purple should be a deck that could easily counter this deck, but because of this card, it's so hard for them to play the game. They have to play when summons. Even if they cut down on the most they can, they're still probably playing a minimum of 10 when summons, and all it takes is one of them to hit it while you have this set, and you're just off to the races. You can't lose. And even casting this, a lot of people are like, oh, it's not great in the mirror, but it actually is. There are a lot of times in the mirror where you just have, like, especially in the later game, you have all this mana and you draw this and you're trying to get cards back. So even casting it to draw 2 cards is completely acceptable. I have no qualms with this. We had this at 3 in Palm Springs. I went back to 4 because I was expecting more purple, and it did not disappoint. I didn't play any purple in Chile, so but this card was great, and I would stick to 4. For Ice Shield, Absolute Ice Shield, I mean...
We're playing Battle Spirits.
Yeah, we're playing Battle Spirits. There's not much else to say about this. I mean, if you really need an explanation, go watch like one of the million other YouTube videos. I mean, it's just the best card in the game. 2 Suppression, same thing as in Palm Springs. Once aggro got popular, we need a way to hedge. This effectively works as another Absolute Ice Shield. So it just, like, you put this... your creatures are so big, so you put this on, like, a Rex. That's 13k. That's bigger than everything. That can even trade with an opposing Rex if you want it to. You can even put this, though, on like a Dino Man or like a loaded up Eagle, and that's usually enough to end the turn against red most of the time. Even if they have a Rex, sometimes that'll still end the turn as long as the Rex is already attacked. I mean, it's just a really good hedge in the mirror. It's very good versus white aggro. It's just a great card overall. So I would keep this at 2. It performed very well for me. I don't have the 3rd in the side currently, but it's something to think about. 3 Volcanic Break. We were very close to moving this to 4, and it was at 4 for a bit in testing. The 4th one's in the board right now, but you have 3 here. This is the, hands down, has to be the best removal in the game. This card is crazy. Hitting up to guys up to 6k. It's great in the mirror. It's great versus yellow to hit the blessed guys. It's great versus white. Sometimes they'll commit Elks without maxing them out, without putting them to level 3, or they'll play Odins. I mean, it's good versus just about every deck. Versus purple, It's great because you get to kill when they try to do Beldegor loops and leave up blockers. You get to kill the 4-drop outside of combat, so they're not bringing Beldegor back. I mean, this card is good versus every deck, and it kind of leaves me wondering, why didn't I main the 4th one? And that's a great question, and I'll get to that in a sec. For Burning Force, again, we're playing Battle Spirits. This is like one of the most staple cards, probably besides Ice Shield. I mean, this card's crazy, and when you get reduction, it's way, way crazier. I mean, this card's just so insane. Big fan of this card. It's great at anti-aggro, great for aggroing, great for killing nexuses. I think one of the most important aspects of this card is the scariest card in the game, in my opinion, is Depths, the 6-drop purple nexus, and you need to be able to kill that the moment it comes down for purple. That's like one of the determining factors for your matchup. So I just, overall, this card's awesome, and I would never play less than 4. Scorched Battlefield. So my original list, it was 4 Scorched, 2 Volcanic. Then we moved to 3 and 3 at Palm Springs, and then I almost played 4 and 2, 4 Canyon, 2 Scorched Battlefield. The reason I went back to 3 and 3 is this is so important versus the control deck, specifically purple, because purple is all about card advantage. So having this against purple is just crazy to be able to keep drawing. When all your guys replace themselves and you can just keep the pressure on them without running out of cards, it's incredible. I have a 4th in the side too for purple and some other control decks, but this card's absolutely incredible. I would say the ceiling on this is much higher than Canyon, but Canyon is just at a base level is just better. But when you go first and start this card, that's the best turn 1 play in the game, in my opinion. Is as a red deck is start Scorched Battlefield, going first, of course. Even in the mirror, I don't like Nexuses in the mirror, but if I'm going first, I side in the extra of this because it's just so crazy. 3 Canyon. Canyon's upside is that Scorched Battlefield gets worse as the game goes along. Yeah. Canyon is always good. Canyon is always just obviously getting it earlier to see more cards is better, but you can drop Canyon in the mid game and not feel bad about it, where Scorched Battlefield, when your opponent's already at 2 life or something, you don't feel as great about it. But Canyon's a great card. It's very good versus white, where versus white it's less about card advantage and more about just finding specific cards. So this lets you draw an extra card every turn. It's great versus most decks. In the mirror, I'd actually argue Scorched Battlefield in the mirror is only good literally going first. You played on turn 1 going first, but Volcanic Canyon is great in the mirror because, again, in the mirror, it's about finding specific cards. Card advantage is nice too in the mirror, but being able to find Ice Shields faster, being able to find Rexes, being able to find kind of cards that you need in certain situations is really good. So I think in the mirror, this card makes all the difference. It almost went to 4 for that reason, but because of what I felt was going to be a very purple prevalent meta, I had to just stick with the 3 cannons.
The 1-core pump also helps a decent amount of time, actually.
Yes. That is worth mentioning. The pump, of course, matters. I didn't mention it much on Scorched Battlefield. The pump is great, but the reason Scorch is there is for the draw.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
It's not there for the...
Yeah.
The pump is just icing. Counter Sword. So again, I mean, I didn't think there'd be much Nova, but I still... The problem with my side is, you don't have a lot of stuff to side out versus most decks except purple. So I didn't really have a lot of things I wanted in the side. The card pool's very small. It's very hard to have a lot of side. So Counter Sword is a card that's just very good against purple, which I feel is one of my weaker matchups, at least game 1. It's a very good tempo card. And how we were siding it versus purple was we said, if you see they have Curse Dragon combo in their deck, you side in Counter Sword. If you see they have Maduke and no Curse Dragon combo, you side Dream Bomb. So this was my, because you side 6 cards in versus purple, and 2 of them you kind of swap in and out. I didn't think there'd be much Nova, but it's in there just in case. So this is mostly just for purple. I didn't play purple though. I still have yet to ever cast Counter Sword in a tournament. I swear this card is good. I've never, ever once resolved the flip effect on this. I've cast it 1 time just to gain the life. It was not even flipped. It was just in a local tournament. I cast it to gain life. So I've never cast this card. It's crazy. 2 Dream Mom. With the prevalence of cards like X-Spider, you really need You need more outs to white than ever. I did say our white matchup is good, which is true, but with X-Spider decks running around, especially like the one that Dango ran, you have to be on your toes. Suppression, X-Spider can really shut down your turn. It's unideal to have that happen to you. You need outs to it, but there are other cards now that we're seeing in the meta too. Maduke is really scary for this deck. You want ways to get rid of Maduke. Elephant is just such a pain in the... Like, I cannot describe what a pain in the ass Elephant is. Nomengard. I remembered his name.
Yeah.
So this is really huge too, especially when your opponent goes Elephant. Sometimes they'll even load them up to 4 cores, and they're like, "Oh, I'm going to attack now because I get the untaps." And then on the last attack, you're like, "Nope, bounce Elephant." Like now, all your guys are tapped. Like, but even without that, like just bouncing Elephant is great because that's one of the only ways White can really beat you. Is just like you crack like 2 Elephants, and now they're up 6 cards and 6 mana, and you're in a world of hurt. So. This guy's great. You side this against purple, like I said, when they have Maduke and no Curse Dragon combo. Shui Andromeda. Again, another purple's hate. Purple's the scariest thing for us. The scariest card in their deck is Depths. So this is a great card just to deal with Depths. You can bring this in versus yellow if you want to. I never did personally because I am very confident versus yellow. But if you feel like Nexuses are going to be an issue, or they have all 8 Nexuses and you think you need more removal for it, you can side it versus that too. But this is mostly here just for purple to deal with Depths. He doesn't come in for really anything else, especially since he's got a Wind Summon. I'm not a big fan. 1 Volcanic Break. So why didn't I main for this? It literally came in, I don't think there's any matchup this doesn't come in against except maybe white, like white control maybe. Honestly, I don't know why. I do know why. Okay, I do know why. So the reason was, it's hard to know what to cut for this 4th one because certain things, once you know what your matchup is, you can make the cuts accordingly. So for example, if you're playing against purple or white, if I want to, I cut Suppression. So I know Suppression's one of the cuts for this. So game 1, I need all the other cards because they're essential to certain decks. But once I know what I'm playing against, there's always cards I can shave from my deck. So once I know what I'm looking to shave, then the 4th one comes in. Mm-hmm. Like I said, this comes in every single matchup. There's only like a few cards you can cut from the main, and because they all serve different niches versus certain decks, you don't really know which one to cut until you know what deck you're playing against, so that's why it's actually not in the main. This came in, like I said, just about every single game. It comes in the mirror. It comes in versus yellow especially. It comes in versus purple to kill the Beldegor, the guys that bring back Beldegor outside of combat. Like, this card's just great. Like, I think the only matchup it doesn't come in against, like I said, is maybe white control. Another Flamefish. Like I said, Flamefish got his redemption arc. Anti-aggro's great. Usually he comes in like a mirror or some sort of, if I see my opponent's playing aggressively, versus yellow he comes in, and I'll usually take out a Dragno Guard for him because, like I said, Dragno Guard's the worst creature in the deck, and I think he overperformed. There's a chance maybe a 3rd one makes its way in the main. I'm not sure yet. I have to really come back and think about that, but Fish Flame really performed well for me this time. Scorched Battlefield, this is the 4th one. Versus purple, the ideal start for you is Scorched Battlefield, and really the first 2 turns versus purple should just be loading up Nexuses so your guys come in as cheap as possible, so you get to keep as many cores on the field and really stop them from just using their core removal efficiently. But more importantly, you also get to draw cards every time you hit them, which is huge. So I am a huge fan of this. I think it's because of the matchups you're siding it in against. It's purple is the most important one, but I sided it in versus yellow. I sided it in versus white. I only sided in the mirror when I go first, because I think the only time this card is good in the mirror is when you play it on turn 1 when you go first. Otherwise, it's very risky to play it going second, because your opponent, like especially if they start their own, could just go, here's 3 dudes, now I'm going to draw 3 cards, and you probably just lose the game if that happens. So it's not in versus everything. White aggro is a deck that you don't want it against. This is a card that will probably, I can foresee this going in the main. This is another card I'm thinking about. Maybe this just makes its way into the main and I play 7 Nexuses, because again, it's a card that I pretty much sided in every time. But unlike Volcanic Break, um, I don't really. I have a slot already in mind for this card, and I don't really need to cut one of the. I'm probably not going to cut one of the like essential cards. Whereas with Volcanic Break, I'm looking to cut a Suppression or something, which I don't want to do game one. So this one might come in the main, I think, and then we'll have an extra side slot. And then finally, the one of Dino or Dirk Cousins. He was actually not in the deck at the beginning. I was going to this event not playing him at all because I felt like my weight matchup was good enough. I didn't need him. And then I lost to Dango's Axe Spider deck in testing, and I said, well, what really gets that deck? And I said, well, Derm Dyna. And, well, I never ended up playing them, and I mean, honestly, I didn't really expect to. It wasn't specifically for them, but like after losing to the deck, I was like, yeah, weight control can just get you. And he did actually win me a game. I played weight control twice, once in Swiss, once in top, and my game 2 of my Swiss match, I got my opponent to 1 and just ran him out there and won the game. So, I mean, he did his job, which is more than I can ask.
Oh.
So, yeah. That's it for the deck profile.
All right. No, fantastic job. Once again, congratulations on your top. So Rex, Terrasaur, still best deck in the format moving forward?
Yeah, I think it's easily the best deck. I really like that Axe Spider deck that Dango and his buddy were playing this weekend. So I might try that out for Ohio. We'll see. I have to test it myself and see if it's really as good as it looks on paper, but I played against it. He actually beat me a match the day before the tournament. So we played a match, and I won game 1, and then he crushed me game 2 and 3. So I'm a big fan of that deck. We'll see how well it performs. And like I won this one, so I feel good going into Ohio. I might just screw around and play that Axe Spider deck. But I think going into the Pro Tour, it's got to be play Terrasaurs. I don't see any other option. I think this is easily the best deck in the game. It's so good. The one thing about Terrasaurs you have to realize is that Terrasaurs is a deck that's very good when you have perfect information against your opponent. It's not a deck that wants to do the same thing every single time like many people believe. Your turn 1 is so crucial, knowing what your opponent's playing, because let's say you're playing Weight Aggro and you play Nexus turn 1,
you're dead.
Pretty much, you're dead. You're dead. So I think Terrasaurs is a deck, though, that once you get open deck lists like you're supposed to do in Top Cut, once you know everything your opponent's doing, you know their deck, you know how to execute perfectly. I think it's the most favored deck in the game, hands down. That being said, unlike a lot of decks that just want to do the same thing every time, Terrasaur has to adjust its game plan depending on what it's playing against. But when you are making these adjustments correctly, you're favored versus everything, I think, just about. So, like I said, I think this is the best deck. I've said it time and time again. Play Terrasaurs, guys. I mean, hands down, easily the best deck. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, back-to-back performances kind of show that. I think at this point,
4 finals now? We have Vegas into Palm Springs, into Germany, into Chile. So that's 4 final appearances, 2 wins. I would say, I mean, what more do you need? The proof's in the pudding, guys.
Absolutely. So with that said, is there anything you'd like to close off for this time before we see you again? Maybe in Ohio, maybe in the UK, who knows?
Yeah, I'll be in Ohio. I don't know about UK yet. We'll see how my wife feels about that. But no, I mean, that's about it, guys. That's all for today.
All right,
I got
fantastic.
a flight to catch.
Thank you very much, Alex. Once again, congratulations, and look forward to seeing how else you do throughout the rest of the season.